Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be having a look at the Warbond shop for the new season of the Battle Pass Firepower. Now Firepower did come out today, just to let you guys know, so make sure to get on top of it. And also, you can see it's going to be going for 90 days, so that's overall what's going on. There is actually a ton of pretty interesting premium vehicles. There is only 6 of them, so not a ton to go over here. But they also have brought back some interesting test drives and of course added a few new additions to some of the other boxes. Another thing that's actually going on right now is an Australia Day celebration. So you can find the Australia Day stuff if you go to achievements and then Australia Day. All you have to do is play 3 missions and with the British get 70% activity and you can get yourself the Australia Day decal. It's from rank 2 to 7, air vehicles for Britain, and the decal itself is really nice. I'll show it on screen here for you so you can have a look at it. And this goes until the 28th, so you have that time. Another vehicle that they've also brought back is also the Boomerang. So they brought back the Boomerang Mark II, which is attached to the Boomerang Mark I, which means that you have to buy the Boomerang Mark I in order to purchase the Boomerang Mark II, which has always been annoying when it comes to this stuff. Basically, this will be available until the 28th of January for GE, and you'll find the aircraft in the British Aviation tree, of course, and the aircraft is only available to owners of the Boomerang Mark I that can be purchased with a 25% discount. So basically, they're giving this a 25% discount, which puts it at 863 GE, and then the Boomerang Mark II will be 1320. I've got to say, the Boomerangs used to be really good in Air Realistic, and then they kind of lost their charm. In Air Arcade, these things are fantastic. They're actually really, really nice to fly about the place. They also got an updated model, which is pretty cool. So that is something to also look forward to when it comes to the vehicle itself. Another thing to note is they are pretty much just turn fighters. So if you ever run into an energy fighter or something with a bigger engine than yours, you're going to struggle a little bit. But they are quite fun to play. I've had a decent time in them over the years. It's just they're at a point now where there's just so much stuff around them which is just better than them. If you are interested in purchasing this though, make sure if you need to get the GE, either for this or the Battle Pass, use my affiliate link that you'll find in the description of the video. You can get yourself some GE, you can get a discount, and also at the same time you can get this decal that you see here on the Boomerang. So make sure to check that out, but generally I would say it's not worth purchasing the Boomerang Mark II. The Boomerang Mark I and II are very similar to each other. There's not actually that many differences between them. So maybe if you want, you could purchase the Boomerang Mark I that you see here, and then see how you feel about it, and then pick up the 2 if you want. If you play Air Arcade, then I would say it's probably worth it, but if you play in the other mode, probably not, because you don't need the lineups for it, right? So that's something to note. Right, when we have a look at the Warbond shop, it's pretty much similarly set up to the one before it. The major difference is some of the things that are on offer. So in the new Warbond shop, they have a new decal. This is Shoo Shoo Baby. They're obviously continuing with the pinup idea that they've done for years. Obviously, you've got Heartbreaking Kasha over here. So you can pick that one up. The premium vehicles are different, and also they've added a few more road signs to this. They actually say in the article itself that what they've done is an updated road signs trophy. Trophy with emblems and decals of the tiger images from the past is also there, and also the pinup. So the tiger decals are all of the derpy tigers. So you can see it's all of the let's call them special tigers. So these are the ones that I don't have access to. I don't even know where they're from. You can see that one there. Oh my Jesus. Why was there so many derpy tigers? Was there just a bunch of people who didn't know what tigers looked like? It's so weird to me. But anyway, those are the new additions to the Warbond shop, which are pretty cool. So make sure to check them out if you're interested. More options is always better when it comes to the Warbond shop stuff. And when we look at the test drive vehicles, we have the Helena, we have the Type 75 MLRS, the SU11, and the Mi-24P. So ranking these quickly, just looking at them, the SU11 is a fantastic vehicle. It's just a better version of the SU9, which is in the tech tree at the same BR, making it a pay-to-win vehicle. It has really nice bomb drops on it. It also has really nice speed and really nice guns. There isn't really anything on this which it doesn't do well with. It's a very, very good early jet, and since it's a premium, it's really good for researching a lot of vehicles in the Soviet tech tree. Fantastic vehicle. The Helena as well, even though it isn't the top dog anymore, it's still very powerful and very good at the multi-role ability of defending battleships from aircraft and also supporting them with a decent fire rate. It also has really good rewards on it, as you can see, which is quite important, so that might be worth going for if you're trying to research through the American tech tree. The American tech tree is going to be one of the more powerful ones in years to come when it comes to naval, so it's kind of good to set up for that. Then the Mi-24P, the German one. I don't have too much knowledge of this aircraft, I've got to say, but in general, it's a mid-tier helicopter, and normally you don't see mid-tier helicopters because they just get annihilated, so you normally see some early tier ones at 8.0 or around, and then what you get is a bunch of late tier ones like the K50, K52. So yeah, my guess is you don't see many of these because they're not as powerful as the others, but maybe it'll be good for grinding stuff like the late tier German helicopters like the UHT, which can be very strong in ground. And then you got the Type 75 MLRS. This thing is terrible. There is no, I keep hearing from people that this is a good vehicle. They're wrong. It's a vehicle which is very RNG. It's a vehicle that has no armor. It's a vehicle that has a bunch of bugs on it as well. So even if you are trying to use it effectively, the effect of the vehicle can actually just fail you. It's one of those things which is super annoying, and it's just too limited in its general scope of use. So this thing is garbage. I'm sick of people defending it. It's just not a good vehicle at all, no matter how well you personally do with it. So if we're ranking them, it's number 1 for the SU-11, 2 for the Helena, 3 for the Mi-24, and then 4 for the Type 75 MLRS. That's how I would do it for those when it comes to the general test drives. When it comes to the premiums, obviously you have all of the Talismans, which are there if you want to pick them up. Remember, the Talismans are completely RNG, so the only thing that affects it is which vehicles you have unlocked. So if you, for example, have all rank 4 air vehicles in the game unlocked, if you pop this Talisman, then you could get a random Talisman on any of those rank 4s. This could be really good for you, this could be really bad for you. To give you an example, for the Talismans last time, what I ended up getting is for air vehicles, I got the Kicker, which I think is pretty good actually. I'm pretty happy with that one because I use it in ground, air, and will do in naval going forward when you get to that BR. And then in ground, I got the Swingfire, which is terrible. So it's very much an RNG fest when it comes to these things. So for the vehicles, we have the Morco Moran, we have the Crusader Saint, we have the Solare Sahariano, the VS8, which is nice to see, the P51C, the P51C11NT, the Japanese one, and also the T14. So we've got quite a few vehicles here which are kind of new, I suppose, when it comes to this stuff. The lower tier ones, the Crusader, the Saint, the Morco Moran, and the Solare Sahariano. The only one I'd actually say is kind of worth it here is the Solare. And I know, right, so the Crusader is a fantastic vehicle, and it works really, really well in the game. There's a reason it went up in BR, all of them did, because they're vastly outperforming stuff. But the Crusader, the Saint, is also in a beginner's pack, which is together with the Spitfire Mark IIA Venture 1 on the store. and it's incredibly cheap, especially with the discount code, and also a lot of the time goes 30 or 50% off during sales. So you can get the Crusader the Saint, you can get the Venture, and also some SL and a bit of premium, I believe, for like $2 or $3 when it's on sale. So that's a really, really good deal. And you know, it's definitely something to think about when looking at a vehicle like that. So instead of like grinding it out in the battle pass, maybe you can pick something else up, which would be slightly better than that, because the Crusader one you can get in a different area. Even if you don't want to pay for it on PC, you could do an event, you know, grind some Gaijin coin basically, and then get yourself that beginner pack if you wanted this vehicle, plus a lot more. So even though it's good, yeah, kind of that. The Soleri Sahariano is a interesting vehicle. It's very similar to the Crusader in generally how it's supposed to be played, but it is worse than it because it doesn't have the usability of stuff like the smoke grenades, which make the Crusader really useful to reposition and move about. It does have an okay gun with the 47mm 4740. The mobility on it is actually pretty good, which is quite nice. It does have some really sloped armor, so it can catch people out, and also it's really low to the ground, so its gun depression of 10 degrees is actually maximized because of that. So the Soleri, if you're trying to get into the Italian tree, is not actually a bad idea, especially since you can run it with the Turan, the Turan 2, which they have also added. Obviously the Turan is a 2.0 in the Battle Pass, but you can still up to with this, you can get 2 premiums and you can get really quickly into the Italian tree. I think the Sahariano is actually a pretty decent pick. You know, Italy doesn't have that bad of a ground tech tree. There are some nice little shining lights in it. Its top tier is garbage right now. It's got, once again, some nice elements, like the automatic's still the best gun AA in game, and, you know, the Centauro 120 is pretty fun, but apart from that, like, the Arietes just get outmatched, so, you know, it is how it is. But the Sahariano is, you know, if you like the Crusader, you're going to like the Soleri. The Morco Moran is a pretty decent vehicle. It's very bog standard, so its flight characteristics are nothing special. Its guns, the Berezin is quite nice, but you don't get a lot of ammo for it. The 7.5mm is a good backup, but once again, they don't do a lot of damage. It does everything okay, which means that it's going to get outdone by aircraft that do something very well. The HU-100, for example, is an aircraft that has a pretty powerful engine and is a jack of all trades and does a lot of stuff better than the Morco Moran. You get a lot of turn fighters around this BR, such as the Spitfires, which will just tear you apart in this thing if you fight to like their fiddle. So the Morco Moran is more about realizing what the enemy can do and realizing what you can do and trying to work from there, which isn't always the easiest thing to do when it comes to these vehicles in general. So I would say it's an okay vehicle, but the Swedish tech tree in general, which is where this thing resides, is a really good tech tree to work through. You know, the J21s are fantastic, the J22s are fantastic, even like the early stuff isn't that bad, the B18, T18s are really good, so I just grind through them normally. You don't need the help of a very, very average premium in that regard, unless you have some affinity to Finland as a nation. The VSA is a really interesting pick. So this is a mine layer from Germany, and this was actually the first mine layer that was introduced in the game. It was a vehicle which was added in a little test event that they did for Naval, where you could kind of like see how the mines were going to react and interact with stuff, and then it was left out of the game for the longest time and then came back. So what this thing has is 450mm machine guns, or sorry, I should call them MG151s, and then it has a bunch of mines on the back. Now they've done a bunch of different changes to mines, and I think nowadays they're a lot more useful than they used to be. They still require a position of dominance to use effectively. So in order for you to use these mines effectively, you need your team to be able to clear your path to use them, which is not always something you can rely on. You need to be on the enemy side of the match, and you need to be able to plonk them down. putting them on your side, like the enemy never goes over there, so what's the point? So the mines can be tricky to use, which with this thing means that you're left with the hydrofoil nature, which is obviously good against torpedoes, its speed, which is okay, but the vast majority of its useful compartments are in the front, so it dies really quickly, running into the enemy. And then you have 4 15mm MG151s, where the vast majority of the time they all can't get on target at once. I don't actually think they can get on target at once, so you can only have a maximum of 3 on target at the same time, and obviously this massively limits the capability of the VS-8, and 3 MG151s compared to what other nations have at 3.0, such as, let's say, the PT-565 for America, is nothing in the grand scheme of things. So for me, the VS-8, even though it's a really interesting vehicle, it relies on a mechanic which is barely used in the game. So it would unfortunately be a bit of a no from me, even though I think it's a really cool vehicle. The P51C 11NT at 3.7. Now, if you need a good grinder for Japan, this isn't actually a bad one. I think in general, it's, a P51's always going to do you pretty well. It's going to be one of those vehicles which has a decent engine. It has a ton of 50 cals as well to keep it going, which is really nice. If you've ever used stuff like 50 cals, then you know how effective they are at pretty much any BR. And at rank 3, it means that you can research, rank 4 and below, which is pretty good on it, and you've got really good rewards, especially on the SL for this thing. And look at the repair cost. Its repair cost is 710. So you could spawn, get shot down, and do nothing else and make money in this plane. So that's something to look at. One of the really good grinders in the Japanese tech tree that a lot of people talk about is this, the Corsair, which does have higher rewards than the C11NT for some reason, but it also has a high repair cost. But this thing is fantastic at getting SL. But the C11NT might also be pretty good at doing it as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't get any ground ordnance, so it's pretty much just an air superiority fighter. There are much better air superiority fighters than it at the BRs that it's at, but it does have, as I said, good rewards and also a really low repair cost. The best thing to do with the Japanese is wait for a sale and pick up the Pacific campaign with the A6M5. So you can use the tech tree and grind all of that out with this. It might even be worth to pick it up even when it's not on sale. So yeah, it's one of those things. So I don't know. No, it just seems odd to me that this one's here. I think this is a pretty new vehicle as well, so I'm guessing nobody's buying it. And I mean, the question would be, why would you? Especially when they've just added the A6M6C for free, and also you can get the A6M5 Co and the F4U1A. So it's a decent vehicle, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll pick it. Then the T14, which is one that keeps returning over and over and over again to the Warbond shop. It's got good gun depression, it's got a good 75, it's the chunky Sherman. So they up-tiered it, which basically meant that its gun became a lot worse than it was, but it's still completely fine as a vehicle. You just got to pick your shots well. It struggles against heavy tanks when it gets up-tiered, like Tigers and stuff like that. But not Tigers, sorry. It struggles way more against Panthers and stuff like that. But it does have a good lineup around it. The M4A176 helping it out, and then also the M6A1. So overall, a very nice lineup. Plus the planes, because there's a lot of 4.7 planes for America too. The Mustangs and the P47s. So the main thing you're relying on in this thing is its armor. And generally when you do that, it works if you're in a down tier, but if you're in an up tier, then you're just going to get clattered by it, and then it becomes very much a support tank, which you don't want from something that's supposed to be a brawler. It does have the stabilizer on the gun though, which is really nice. Really, really important of those tiers to have the stabilizer. It does have the M61, which is really good, and also APCR, so if you do get those full up tiers, it's, works pretty well. But it's just a chunky Sherman, so it's just a little bit fat. The armor can work if you angle well with it, and also at the same time, if you play it in certain ways, when it comes to the way that you actually angle and move around the place. I just wish that I just wish that it was, lower BR again, so it'd be more of a bully. But after the volumetric changes, it did really, really annihilate that BR bracket, so I understand why it went up. So when it comes to the premium vehicles, I wouldn't actually say there's like... This is probably one of the weaker ones that there has been, especially when it comes to the planes. The P51C and the Boomerang, I feel like there would have been much better options to go. But if I was going to tier these guys, so when it comes to number 1, it would be the Crusader the Saint. But as I said, you can pick it up really nicely in a... you can pick it up really nicely in the beginner's pack for Britain, along with the Spitfire. And then number 2 would be the T14. Number 3, the Solare Sahariano, especially if you want to grind stuff with the Turan 2. Number 4 would be the P51C. The number 5 would be the VS8, just because of its interesting abilities and also unique design. And number 6 would be the Boomerang, because it's a jack of all trades, master of none, with an engine which likes to kill itself, which is never fun. So for me, I think when it comes to this battle pass, I'm going to be going for the Talismans again. I'm not too interested in all of the premium vehicles. There's nothing that really comes off the page for me when it comes to them. So yeah, nothing too unique here. Kind of a shame, actually. A little bit of a rough one. Anyway, as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Professor X 1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, BRFC 15, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe A, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, and then Kyle Kin, Barine, Lafouche, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.